By the time you were 15, that you were already had lived in 20 different homes?
Oh, maybe 40, yeah.
Maybe 40.
What have you lost as a result of Miss Heard making these allegations against you?
Nothing less than everything.
When my daughter was ill, and it was, I've known darkness in my life, but that was the darkest period ever, you know.
At 62, the tragedy of Johnny Depp is beyond heartbreaking. His fortune vanished, his daughter nearly died, and his career lay in ruins from a lawsuit that nearly destroyed him.
There are sacrifices that one has to make. Sacrifices that you're not nearly ready for.
7-year-old Lily Rose, fighting for her life in a London hospital while her father watched helplessly, became the first tragedy in a cascade of heartbreak.
I've spent time in Great Ormond Street, where it was, I was the parent when my daughter was ill.
This is how Johnny Depp lost everything and fought to survive when the world turned against him. Johnny Depp was filming Sweeney Todd in London when the phone call came that would change his life forever. 7-year-old Lily Rose had been rushed to Great Ormond Street Hospital after stepping on a rusty nail. What seemed like a minor injury had turned into something far more dangerous. The doctors delivered the devastating news. Lily Rose had contracted E. coli from the wound. The infection had spread through her bloodstream, causing her kidneys to shut down completely. Blood poisoning was attacking her vital organs. They warned Depp and Vanessa Paradis that their daughter might not survive.
When my daughter was ill, and it was, I've known darkness in my life, but that was the darkest period ever, you know.
Production on Sweeney Todd stopped immediately. Tim Burton and the entire crew waited as their star abandoned the film to stay with his dying child. Depp didn't know if he would ever return. Nothing else mattered except Lily Rose pulling through. For 9 days, Depp and Paradis lived in the hospital. They refused to leave their daughter's bedside, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs and surviving on cafeteria food. Every beep from the monitors sent panic through their hearts. Every conversation between doctors made them hold their breath.
I mean, for Vanessa and I, the both of us have just been floating ever since. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Lily Rose.
Lily Rose.
And why Lily Rose?
I don't know. We just
liked the name.
It was the only name that we'd come up with.
Lily Rose lay unconscious, connected to machines that were keeping her alive. Her small body was fighting a battle that many adults couldn't win. The E. coli had overwhelmed her immune system, and her kidneys had completely stopped functioning. Dialysis machines were doing the work her organs couldn't perform. Depp watched other families going through similar nightmares in the pediatric intensive care unit, parents sitting vigil beside children fighting cancer, accidents, and rare diseases. The wealth and fame that had defined his life meant nothing in this sterile world where death didn't care about box office numbers. On the third day, Lily Rose's condition worsened. Her other organs began showing signs of stress from the kidney failure. The medical team worked around the clock, but they prepared her parents for the possibility that she might not survive the night. Depp called his mother and sister, not knowing if this would be goodbye. The fourth day brought a small sign of hope. Lily Rose's kidney function showed minimal improvement. The doctors cautioned that she wasn't out of danger, but something was working. Depp gripped Vanessa's hand as they watched the monitors for any positive change. By the 7th day, the improvement was undeniable. Her kidneys were slowly beginning to function again. The E. coli infection was retreating. Color was returning to her face. For the first time in a week, Depp allowed himself to believe his daughter might live.
I imagine that I drew breath and exhaled and all that stuff, but I don't have any particularly, fond memories of it.
On the 9th day, Lily Rose opened her eyes and smiled at her father. That moment became more precious to Depp than any award, any paycheck, any standing ovation he had ever received. His little girl was going to survive. The following year, Depp donated $2 million to Great Ormond Street Hospital. He would later say that those 9 days represented the darkest period of his entire life. The hospital experience had changed Depp's perspective on what truly mattered, but he had no idea that the people he trusted most were quietly destroying everything he had worked to build.
My birthday was coming up, and on my birthday I said, are you gonna make it to my birthday party? We had a dinner planned at our penthouse. I said it would be important for me if you made it.
Amber Heard's 30th birthday party was supposed to be a celebration, but Johnny Depp arrived late with devastating news that would change everything. What should have been a quick financial check-in became the moment Depp discovered his entire world had collapsed. Joel Mandel from the management group laid out papers across the conference table. The numbers were incomprehensible. In 13 years of managing Depp's finances, TMG had overseen the earning of $650 million from his film career. Almost all of it was gone. But the disappearance of his fortune was only the beginning. Depp owed the Internal Revenue Service over $100 million in unpaid taxes. For 17 years, TMG had failed to pay his tax obligations, allowing penalties and interest to accumulate into a crushing debt that threatened to destroy him completely. The scope of unauthorized spending was staggering. His sister Christy had received $7 million without his knowledge or approval. His assistant Nathan Holmes had been given $750,000 in payments Depp never authorized. Late fees to the IRS alone totaled $5.6 million from missed deadlines spanning nearly 2 decades. Depp arrived late to Heard's birthday party that night, his mind reeling from the financial devastation he had just discovered. The guests were celebrating while he processed the reality that his trusted business managers had systematically looted his wealth while hiding the theft from him for years.
Later that evening, we were in bed, and I had a book, and Johnny effectively said, which problem now?
The meeting with TMG 3 days later turned ugly quickly. When Depp demanded explanations for the missing money and unpaid taxes, Joel Mandel became defensive and threatening. The man who had been paid to protect Depp's financial interests now promised to destroy his reputation and expose his personal secrets. TMG's counterattack came in the form of leaked documents detailing Depp's extravagant spending. Reports emerged of $30,000 per month on wine, $200,000 monthly for private jets, and $3 million spent shooting Hunter S. Thompson's ashes from a cannon. The media portrayed him as a reckless spender rather than a victim of financial fraud.
He has an $18 million yacht. He's spending $300,000 a month on staff, spending $150,000 on security, and another $30,000 on wine alone.
The legal battle that followed consumed millions more in attorney fees while Depp tried to recover his stolen wealth. Discovery revealed that TMG had been taking unauthorized loans against his properties, making investments with his money for their own benefit, and systematically skimming funds while filing false financial reports. Bank statements showed monthly expenses of over $2 million that TMG had allowed and encouraged, knowing Depp couldn't afford the lifestyle they were enabling. Instead of protecting their client's financial future, they had facilitated the destruction of his wealth while profiting from every transaction. The case dragged on for years, generating legal bills that further depleted what remained of Depp's resources. Meanwhile, the unpaid tax debt continued growing with penalties and interest, creating a financial hole so deep that even successful films couldn't generate enough income to climb out.
Because of this, he's had to take out loans, his management company is saying, to even cover the cost because he himself cannot pay for it.
By 2018, Depp was forced to sell properties and liquidate assets just to meet basic obligations. The man who had once been among Hollywood's highest-paid actors found himself scrambling to cover monthly expenses, while his former business managers kept the millions they had stolen from his accounts. The financial betrayal sent Depp spiraling deeper into the addiction that had already been consuming his life for decades. Johnny Depp's relationship with began in childhood, stealing his mother's nerve pills at 5 years old and progressing to cigarettes by 12.
This goes back to when I was a young boy. At about the age of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old.
By 14, he would later admit in court, he had experimented with every available to him. What started as teenage rebellion evolved into a lifelong battle that would eventually help destroy his career. The drinking intensified during his early Hollywood years, when the pressures of sudden fame collided with his natural introversion. Became his escape from anxiety, his shield against the demands of celebrity, and eventually his prison. He later described poisoning himself with for years, particularly during difficult filming periods.
I have taken these substances over the years, on and off, to numb myself.
On the set of What's Eating Gilbert Grape in 1993, Depp's drinking became noticeable to cast and crew. He would disappear between takes, returning with the smell of on his breath. His co-workers initially dismissed it as method acting or artistic temperament, not recognizing the signs of serious addiction. By the Pirates of the Caribbean era, Depp's wine collection had become legendary and expensive. He was spending $30,000 per month on building cellars in multiple homes filled with rare vintages that he consumed at an alarming rate. The wine wasn't just a hobby, it was fuel for a dependency that was growing stronger each year.
Everything, it was just self-medication.
Film sets became laboratories for his drinking experiments. Directors learned to schedule important scenes early in the day before Depp's consumption affected his performance. By afternoon, he often required assistance remembering lines and hitting marks, relying on earpieces and patient crew members to get through scenes. The prescription use that began in childhood evolved into a complex cocktail of substances that Depp mixed with throughout the day. Pain medications, anxiety pills, and sleeping aids combined with wine and liquor created unpredictable effects that made him unreliable and sometimes incoherent. During the filming of pirate sequels, insurance companies began requiring special provisions for Depp's participation, recognizing that his substance abuse posed risks to production schedules and budgets. Studios that had once competed for his involvement started viewing him as a liability whose personal problems could derail their investments.
When I was with Ms. Heard and her friends, and we were all drinking wine, and I smoking, they used to tease me.
The physical toll became visible to audiences and industry professionals. Depp's weight fluctuated dramatically, his dental health deteriorated, and his overall appearance began showing the effects of prolonged substance abuse. The charismatic leading man was being replaced by someone whose addiction was consuming him from the inside. Relationships suffered as his drinking escalated. Vanessa Paradis struggled with his consumption during their 14-year relationship, watching the father of her children disappear behind a haze of intoxication. Friends and colleagues found him increasingly unpredictable and difficult to work with as his addiction progressed. The combination of and prescription created episodes of erratic behavior that became impossible to hide. Text messages sent during blackouts revealed disturbing thoughts and fantasies that Depp would later struggle to explain or defend in court proceedings. Despite multiple attempts at sobriety and rehabilitation, the underlying causes of his addiction remained unaddressed. Stress from financial problems, relationship conflicts, and career pressures drove him deeper into substance abuse, creating a cycle where each crisis led to increased drinking and use that generated new crises. His drinking had already damaged his relationship with Vanessa Paradis, but when he met Amber Heard on a film set, his addiction would fuel the most destructive relationship of his life. Johnny Depp met Amber Heard in 2009 on the set of The Rum Diary, beginning an affair that would eventually destroy both their lives. Depp was still living with Vanessa Paradis and their 2 children when he became involved with Heard, starting a relationship pattern that would be marked by deception, passion, and ultimately violence.
She came to my office. I took one look at her and I thought, yep, that's the Chenault that Hunter wants. That's the one. I thought, yeah, she could definitely.
The attraction was immediate and intense. Heard was 23 years old, beautiful, and ambitious. Depp was 46, wealthy, and still one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Their on-set chemistry translated into a secret relationship that Depp kept hidden from Paradis for months while he decided whether to leave his family.
It felt like something that I shouldn't be feeling because she had her wife, and even though it was a scene, and she had her wife, and I had Vanessa and kiddies. And
by 2012, Depp had ended his relationship with Paradis and moved Heard into his Los Angeles penthouse. The breakup devastated his children, who had never known their parents as anything other than a committed couple. Lily Rose and Jack struggled to understand why their father had abandoned their family for a woman younger than some of his movie characters. The early years of Depp and Heard's relationship were marked by extreme highs and lows that friends described as toxic, from the beginning. Their fights were explosive, involving thrown objects, screaming matches, and accusations that neighbors could hear through the walls of their expensive homes. Depp's drinking escalated during his relationship with Heard, who later claimed she tried unsuccessfully to help him control his addiction. Text messages revealed that she would hide his and flush his, leading to violent confrontations when he discovered her interference with his substances. Their marriage ceremony in February 2015 was small and private, attended only by immediate family and close friends. Many guests later said the couple seemed tense and unhappy, even during their wedding celebration, with both bride and groom drinking heavily and arguing quietly between photos. The marriage lasted 15 months and included some of the most documented domestic disputes in Hollywood history. Police were called to their Los Angeles penthouse multiple times, though charges were never filed. Security guards, housekeepers, and neighbors witnessed fights that left both participants with visible injuries. The most serious incident occurred in Australia during the filming of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. During a fight about Depp's drinking, Heard threw a vodka bottle that shattered and severed the tip of Depp's finger.
At some point, he had a broken bottle up against my face, neck area by my jawline, and he told me he'd carve up my face.
The injury required emergency surgery and shut down production for weeks, costing the studio millions of dollars. Heard's allegations of abuse began during their relationship, but intensified after she filed for divorce in May 2016. She obtained a restraining order and released photos showing bruises on her face, claiming Depp had hit her during a fight about his mother's recent death. The divorce proceedings became a public spectacle as both sides leaked information to the media. Heard's lawyers portrayed Depp as a violent drunk who terrorized his young wife. Depp's team claimed Heard was manipulative and abusive, using his addictions and vulnerabilities against him in calculated ways. The $7 million settlement that ended their marriage included a confidentiality agreement that both sides violated almost immediately. Heard publicly pledged to donate the entire amount to charity, a promise that would later become evidence in their defamation trials, when the donations were never completed. Even after their divorce was finalized, the battle between Depp and Heard continued in courts, tabloids, and social media for 6 more years. What had begun as a passionate affair had evolved into the most destructive relationship of both their lives. The domestic violence allegations from Amber Heard created immediate consequences for Johnny Depp's career that went far beyond any individual film contract. Within days of her restraining order filing, studios began quietly removing him from projects and canceling future collaborations. Disney executives held emergency meetings about the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. The family-friendly studio couldn't afford to be associated with domestic violence allegations, regardless of their validity. Jerry Bruckheimer, who had championed Depp for the Captain Jack Sparrow role, found himself defending an actor who had become a public relations nightmare.
He's so committed to what he does. When he's on a movie, you can't get him off track. He's going to stay on that thing, and I'm sure he's training for another stunt while we're here talking to you.
The decision came without ceremony or farewell. Disney informed Depp that they were moving forward with Pirates films without him, effectively ending his association with the character that had earned him over $300 million. The role that had defined his career and made him one of the world's biggest movie stars was suddenly off limits. Warner Bros. Followed Disney's lead with the Fantastic Beasts franchise. Depp had been cast as the villain Grindelwald and had already filmed scenes for the sequel when the studio asked him to resign. He was replaced by Mads Mikkelsen within weeks, erasing his presence from the magical world he had briefly inhabited. His talent agency, United Talent Agency, dropped him as a client after representing him for decades. Tracy Jacobs, the agent who had helped build his career from 21 Jump Street through Pirates, was forced to end their professional relationship as the agency determined that representing Depp had become too risky. Projects that had been announced with fanfare simply disappeared from production schedules. A collaboration with Terry Gilliam called The Carnival at the End of Days was indefinitely postponed. Independent films that might have provided alternative opportunities were canceled as financiers withdrew support. Insurance companies began refusing to provide coverage for productions featuring Depp, viewing him as a liability whose personal problems could derail filming or create negative publicity. The financial risk of employing him became greater than the potential box office benefit he might provide. The 2020 libel trial against the Sun newspaper in London created a another devastating blow. When the court ruled that calling Depp a wife-beater was substantially true, the legal decision provided permanent justification for studios to avoid working with him. His asking price dropped from $20 million per film to whatever independent producers could afford to pay. The actor who had once commanded the highest salaries in Hollywood found himself grateful for small roles in low-budget productions that received limited theatrical release. The speed of his career destruction shocked industry veterans who had witnessed other scandals and comebacks. Unlike previous controversies that had been weathered by major stars, Depp's situation created a permanent stain that seemed impossible to remove through time or good behavior. By 2021, Depp was essentially unemployable by major studios. The man who had been mentioned alongside Marlon Brando and other legendary actors found himself relegated to passion projects and European films that barely registered with American audiences. The cumulative effect was the complete dismantling of one of Hollywood's most successful careers. 3 decades of careful image building and billions of dollars in box office success were destroyed by allegations that had never resulted in criminal charges.
And there's a quote at the beginning of Fear and Loathing that says, "He who makes of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man."
In April 2022, Johnny Depp walked into a Virginia courtroom for what would become the most watched defamation trial in entertainment history. For 6 weeks, the most intimate details of his life would be broadcast live to millions of viewers who treated his pain like entertainment. The case centered on Amber Heard's 2018 Washington Post op-ed about domestic violence. Though she never named Depp, he sued for $50 million. Claiming the article had destroyed his career. Heard countersued for $100 million, alleging that Depp's lawyers had defamed her. From the first day, the courtroom became a theater where Depp's darkest moments were performed for global audiences. His text messages about wanting to burn and drown Heard were read aloud repeatedly. Videos of him apparently intoxicated were played on screens while cameras captured his reactions. Heard's testimony about alleged using a liquor bottle created some of the most disturbing moments of the trial. She described graphic violence while Depp sat silently at the defendant's table, forced to listen to accusations that portrayed him as a monster capable of unthinkable cruelty. Consumption became daily headline news as experts testified about his addiction patterns. The amounts he consumed, bottles of wine, prescription pills, were cataloged in excruciating detail while viewers debated his sobriety on social media platforms. The financial devastation of his life was exposed completely. His $650 million career earnings, the betrayal by his business managers, his unpaid taxes, and his crushing debt became public knowledge. The man who had once been intensely private about money found his entire financial history dissected for entertainment. Cross-examination by Heard's attorneys was designed to humiliate and break him down. They forced him to acknowledge his worst behaviors, his most embarrassing moments, and his failures as a husband and father, while millions watched his discomfort in real time. Text messages sent during his relationship with Heard revealed disturbing fantasies about violence and revenge. The messages, read in court and replayed endlessly online, created permanent associations between Depp and violent imagery that overshadowed his artistic achievements.
You say, "Let's drown her before we burn her." 3 exclamation points. Did I read that right?
Yes, it's referring
And
to the
you
text
didn't-
prior to.
You didn't
From
stop
Mr.
when you
Bettman.
said, "Let's drown her."
The trial's live stream format turned his legal proceedings into a social media phenomenon. Memes were created from his facial expressions. Fans analyzed his body language, and Twitter hashtags tracked public opinion about his guilt or innocence in real time. Even mundane details of his daily life became subjects for public debate. His bathroom habits, his sleeping patterns, his eating disorders. Nothing was too personal to escape scrutiny during the 6-week proceedings that stripped away every vestige of privacy he had maintained. When the jury awarded him $10.35 million in damages, the victory felt hollow after weeks of public humiliation. He had won the case but lost his dignity, his privacy, and any hope of returning to the life he had known before Heard entered it. The trial's global reach meant that his embarrassment was not limited to American audiences, but had been broadcast internationally. The internet ensured that the most painful moments would remain accessible forever, creating a permanent record of his lowest point. September 2022, Johnny Depp stood on a stage in Jeff Beck's final tour, playing guitar for audiences who seemed to have forgotten the courtroom drama that had dominated headlines just months earlier. Music had become his refuge from a world that still viewed him with suspicion and judgment. His children, Lily Rose and Jack, had maintained careful distance from the public chaos surrounding their father's legal battles. Both young adults struggled with having their family's private trauma become global entertainment while trying to build their own careers and identities.
When you have children, there's just no room for lies. There's no room for anything but the truth.
The relationship with Vanessa Paradis remained cordial, but complicated by the media attention that followed Depp everywhere. Their co-parenting relationship required constant vigilance to protect their children from photographers and reporters seeking comments about their father's troubles. Industry friendships that had sustained him for decades began dissolving as colleagues calculated the professional risks of remaining associated with him. Directors who had championed his work and co-stars who had enjoyed his collaboration quietly stopped returning calls and extending invitations. His legal team underwent multiple changes as the complexity and public nature of his cases overwhelmed traditional attorney-client relationships. The lawyers who remained found themselves managing not just legal issues, but a client whose personal problems created new complications faster than old ones could be resolved. The isolation was compounded by his reliance on people who were either paid employees or individuals attracted to his fame, rather than genuine friends concerned about his well-being. The circle of people he could trust had shrunk dramatically as his problems multiplied. European film festivals began offering him awards and recognition, but these honors came from communities outside the American entertainment industry that remained skeptical about his rehabilitation. The accolades were meaningful personally, but couldn't restore his previous level of influence. Independent film projects provided some creative outlet, but the limited budgets and restricted distribution represented a dramatic come-down from the blockbuster franchises that had defined his career. He was working again, but in circumstances that emphasized how far he had fallen. His financial situation remained precarious despite the legal victories. The settlements he had won couldn't restore the hundreds of millions lost through mismanagement and poor decisions, leaving him with significant debt and limited earning potential compared to his previous lifestyle. Social media had become a battlefield where supporters and critics continued fighting over his legacy and reputation. The passionate defense from fans who believed in his innocence was matched by equally vocal opposition from those who viewed him as a symbol of male privilege, avoiding accountability. The physical toll of his struggles was visible to those who knew him well. Years of stress, addiction, and legal battles had aged him dramatically, creating health concerns that added another layer of complexity to his attempts at rebuilding his life. From the depths of isolation and despair, Depp began the slow process of trying to rebuild a life that had been completely shattered. Johnny Depp stood on stage at the San Sebastian International Film Festival, receiving the Donostia Award as hundreds of industry professionals gave him a standing ovation. The standing ovation from industry professionals marked a small step toward rehabilitation, but the journey back remained uncertain and difficult. His collaboration with French director Mai Wen on Jean du Barry had provided an opportunity to work again, playing King Louis XV in a period drama that showcased his acting abilities rather than his personal controversies. The film's modest success suggested that European audiences were willing to separate his art from his personal struggles. The Venice Film Festival also honored him, despite protests from domestic violence advocacy groups who opposed celebrating someone who had been involved in such public allegations. The film community's support was encouraging, but it came from organizations outside the American entertainment industry that still viewed him skeptically. His return to music with the Hollywood Vampires continued providing creative satisfaction and audience connection that didn't require approval from studio executives or entertainment journalists. The band's tours allowed him to perform for fans who appreciated his artistic contributions rather than focusing on his scandals. Independent film offers were increasing, though the projects remained smaller in scope and budget than his previous blockbuster work. Directors who valued his talent over his reputation were willing to take chances, but major studios maintained their distance from someone they still considered commercially risky. The autobiography he had been working on represented another attempt to control his narrative without media filters or legal constraints. The book could provide both financial benefit and emotional release, but it also risked reopening wounds that had begun healing. His relationship with his children remained the most important aspect of his life, providing motivation to continue fighting for redemption, even when progress seemed impossible. Lily Rose's success as an actress offered hope that the family could eventually move beyond the scandals that had dominated their lives. The financial settlements from his legal victories had provided some stability, but the millions recovered couldn't restore his previous wealth or eliminate the debt accumulated during his darkest period. He was solvent, but far from the financial security he had once enjoyed. Industry insiders noted improvements in his professionalism and reliability on recent projects. The man who had once required assistance to remember lines and arrived hours late to sets was reportedly punctual and prepared, suggesting genuine effort to change his working habits. The question of full redemption remained unanswered. Hollywood had demonstrated capacity for forgiveness when circumstances warranted, but Depp's situation involved complexities that made his path back to mainstream acceptance unclear and potentially impossible. His story had become larger than his individual circumstances, representing questions about addiction, accountability, media sensationalism, and second chances in an unforgiving entertainment environment. Whether genuine transformation was possible would depend on his continued efforts and society's willingness to allow growth and change. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. Bye.